Okay, so we're going to do a little video here to get you better prepared for the Khan Academy practice that's called fractions on the number line. We first have to understand what a fraction is. So let's look at the fraction 3/4. So let's just put a 3 over 4 right here. Now we should all know that the 3 is a numerator and the 4 is the denominator. So we need to understand what these numbers actually are. The 4 down here tells you how many equal pieces to chop it up into. And the number up here, the numerator, tells you how many of those 4 that we're talking about, right? So let's pretend that this is like a chocolate bar or you know, whatever, a piece of wood. You want to chop it up into 4 equal pieces. Now, see, the thing is, a fraction is really a division problem. Right here it's saying 3 divided by 4. So you need to divide this into 4 equal pieces, all right? So let's do that. Now, I'm not going to be perfect, but let me try to divide it into 4 equal pieces. So say that's wrong. Let's see, here we go. Okay, I might be a little off, but that looks pretty much equal. 1 equal piece, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if somebody asks you for 3/4 of this chocolate bar, this would be 1/4, right? So at this level, that would be 1/4. Let me write it down. 1/4. Now, since we are talking about fourths here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 pieces, 4 equal pieces we divided it into. So this is 1/4. This would be 2/4. Now, if we think about what 2/4 actually is, 2/4 reduces down to 1/2. And that makes total sense because this is the 1/2 way. That's half of the chocolate bar or half of the piece of wood, whatever you want to call it. So it makes total sense that this is 2/4 right here at this line. This next one would be 3/4. And the one, if it's filled up all the way to the top, that would be a total of 4/4. And we all know that 4 divided by 4 equals 1, which means 1 whole. Okay, so this is 1/4 of the piece. So like if they told you, go ahead and shade in 1/4 of this rectangle. Okay, so you would say 1/4. That would be shading in all of this, all the way up to there. Now, on the other hand, if they said shade in 1/2, well, you would shade in all the way up here, right? If they say shade in 3/4 of it, well, you shade in all 3 out of the 4. Okay. If they say shade in the whole thing, what I mean by whole thing, the one complete thing, the 4 out of 4 pieces, then you would shade in all of it. Okay, so I hope this makes sense that we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Now, again, the only reason why I chopped this one up originally into 4 pieces is because the denominator is 4, the divisor is 4. This fraction, if I were to look at it as a division problem, it says 3 divided by 4. So I need to divide the whole thing into 4 equal pieces. And then the numerator tells me shade in 3 out of the 4. So I would not be shading in this top one. It's just 1, 2, 3 pieces out of the 4. So that's 3/4 right there. Now, understanding how fractions work is very, very important. Even if you don't want to go to college, let's say you want to be a construction worker. And in construction, you're going to be cutting wood a lot. So let's say you're in construction. Somebody tells you, hey, cut this piece of wood at 3 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so let's zoom in. And let's write down the fraction, 3 3/4. So again, you go out to 3 inches. We're already here at 3, but you need 3/4 more of an inch. So remember, the bottom number, the denominator, that's what's telling you how many equal pieces to divide the next unit by. So this is 1 unit from 3 to 4. That's 1 whole, but we need to divide it into 4 equal pieces. So these little lines here, they actually mean something. If we look at this one right here, that's actually 1/4. This one right here is 2/4, which is halfway. This one's 3/4, and this one's 4/4. 4 divided by 4 is 1 whole. That's why we would get to the next whole inch, which would be the 4-inch mark. So anyway, 3 3/4, let me just label them here. This one is the 1/4. This one is the 2/4, which reduces down to 1/2. That's why it's halfway, 3.5 inches. And this one is the 3/4. Okay, so 3 3/4. If they tell you, hey, make a cut on this piece of wood at 3 3/4 inches, you would go 3 and then 1/4, 2/4, which is half, 3/4, and this is where you would make the cut on the piece of wood. So it's very important that we understand how to understand fractions, especially when it comes to like on a number line, or right here in this case on this measuring tape. Sometimes they might not tell you to make a cut at a certain place. Sometimes you need to measure the length of a piece of wood and find out how long that piece of wood is. So let's say you wanted to measure a piece of wood that is all the way to this mark right here. All right, so let's say we have this piece of wood, it goes right here, and you want to see how long that piece of wood is. Well, you would measure it, and that's 3 inches, but how much more? Now, if you want to be exact, you can't just say, oh, it's about 4 inches, because it's not exactly 4 inches, there's that much less. So what we need to do is think, well, how much is this little piece right there? So we need to think how much each of these little pieces actually is, and that way we could get a denominator. Okay, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we know that that's divided equally into 16 pieces. We already know that this is at the 3-inch mark, but if we're going up to this piece right here, then that would be the numerator up here above the equally cut 16 pieces. We just counted them. 1, 2, that's 16 pieces all the way through. Now, let me ask you this. In terms of 1/16 of an inch, what would this be? That would be 8/16. Why? Because 8 is half of 16, and obviously the halfway point is right here. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But let's get to this one right here. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 16ths of an inch. So that measurement would be 3 15 16ths of an inch. And believe me, it happens when you're making cabinets, when you're building houses. You need these exact, precise measurements. And in order to be able to make these cuts, you need to understand fractions. All right, guys, let's move on. So let's go to actual questions on Khan Academy. So here's one problem. It's not going to be the exact one when you do it. There's different types of problems, and they scramble them up with different values. But anyway, they tell you to move the dot to the fraction 4/6. Now, they don't even tell you exactly what measurement these are, but we do know this one is 1/6 and that this one's 0. So from here to here, that's 1/6, which means that this one would be 2/6, this one would be 3/6, this one would be 4/6, right? So our dot goes on the 4/6. 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. This is 4/6. So you just move the dot there, and then down here and the button says check, and you should have like stars and a little noise that goes like that, and it, you know, you got it right. You move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. Now on this one, it says what number is at point A. In other words, what fraction is at point A. Now again, we don't know if this is 1 inch or 2 inches or 3 inches. We don't know. The only thing that we do know is that this one's 0 and that this one is 5 halves. So these must be divided into halves. So in other words, from here to here, that's 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves. So this is 5 halves. And what is point A? That means that that one's 1 half. Okay, so point A, you would right here type in 1 half, hit the check button, and you would get it right. One more, or maybe a few, I'm not sure. Right here we have to move the dot to 2/4, and you don't even know the values except for this one being 0 and this one being 1/4. So from here to here is 1/4, which means that the next one is 2/4. So you would simply move your dot, put the dot right there, hit the check button down there, and you would get it right. That's about it, guys, for the practice on Khan Academy titled Fractions on the Number Line. I hope this helps.